As someone who used to always get the biggest iPhone Apple offered, this past year was different. The iPhone 13 Pro Max was gigantic, and it became a nuisance in my pocket. I also couldn't use it one-handed as easily as the regular 13 Pro. But even with those gripes, I kept the 13 Pro Max, and over the past 250, 260 days, I've grown to love it. Maybe even more than my regular 13 Pro. And I want to tell you why. Let's start with the elephant in the room and everybody's favorite feature of this phone, the battery life. I have never in my life been as surprised by battery life as I was with this phone. And sure, it was all sunshine and rainbows when I first got the phone because the battery was brand new. You know, it was just starting to get broken in and the battery lasted forever as expected. But I've seen this film before. You know, the battery life is great at first and it only slowly, declines over the next several months. And then all of a sudden it's back to being just slightly better than the previous generation iPhone. But the 13 Pro Max is different. It's not a phone that fell off a cliff after 6 months. In fact, the battery life is almost just as good now as it was when I first bought it. Now, granted, I did take numerous precautions like avoiding the heat. I never let it fully die. And of course, I changed up quite a few settings that I shared in previous videos here on the channel to maximize battery life, but it was worth it to do the research because I've never once had a phone that I just simply did not need to worry about dying midway through the workday. It lasts me all day long, every single time I use it. So Apple rates this phone for up to 25 hours of streamed video playback, which is probably the #1 thing I do aside from browsing social media, and even that number seems low when forecasting my battery levels. There's really nothing bad to be said about the battery life whatsoever with the 13 Pro Max. It's far and away the best that Apple has to offer. Now, circling back to that big size and just the overall design, the 13 Pro Max is noticeably heavier than the 13 Pro, and it's always made apparent to me when I'm riding my bike or when I'm trying to run with this phone in my pocket. And being someone who goes for bike rides multiple times a week, this was one of the main reasons that I stuck with the 13 Pro as my main daily device. But if you're not super active or if you just find, other places for your phone to sit aside from your pockets, you won't have to face these dilemmas and you won't have the same issues as me. Or if you're just a bigger person overall with bigger hands, you might not have these issues either. But I would say I have relatively average hands, maybe even above average, and it's still just a little bit too big for me, which is why I stuck with the 13 Pro. But even with using my 13 Pro Max naked for several months, it's held up extremely well in terms of scratches and scuffs. Thankfully, I've never dropped the phone without a case on, and I always have used a screen protector since day one, but still, it's out of the case more than it's in one nowadays because it is my primary test phone for new software updates, as you guys have seen here on the channel. But looking around the body, there are hardly any scuffs or scratches on here aside from these borders. We do have these stainless steel borders which do attract quite a few fingerprints and also scratches over time. I've been extremely delicate with this phone, but you can still see some scratches on the edges of this phone because it is stainless steel. I never saw that with the regular 13 since it's aluminum. And I do also have to say that Sierra Blue has grown on me tremendously. I did not love it at first, which is why I didn't get it for my main phone, but it has really grown on me and I love this shade right here. Oh, and one last thing about the body and the overall durability. This phone is also IP68 dust and water resistant, but luckily I've not really had to put that to the test. It has been in shallow water, but never submerged for a long period of time. But it is good to know that even if it did drop down into a pool or a lake or something like that, I would be able to go down and retrieve it and the phone would still work perfectly fine. As for the display, the Pro Max has a massive 6.7-inch OLED Super Retina XDR display with ProMotion, which means that we get those smooth 120 Hz animations. And still to this day, I get people who are just amazed at how much smoother and how much faster the 13 Pro series feels compared to their iPhone 12 or earlier. It is just night and day. And once you get used to it, it is literally impossible to go back. It feels like my eyes are like lagging in real life when I go back to 60 Hz displays. It really trips my eyes out. The resolution of this display is 2778 by 1284 at 458 pixels per inch. It has a 2,000,000:1 contrast ratio, and most importantly, 1000 nits of typical brightness with a peak of 1200 nits when watching HDR videos. And I have never loved a display more than the 13 Pro series, especially the 13 Pro Max. not only because of the size and the ProMotion, but also because I just never have to put my phone at 100% brightness, even in direct sunlight. I love it, and it's noticeable, even over the regular 13 and especially over prior iPhones. And if I had to say one bad thing about the brightness, it's that sometimes even on 0% brightness, like if I wake up in the middle of the night, it is still too bright. Like my eyes still squint even when this brightness is turned down all the way to 0%, which really says something about these displays. But watching movies, YouTube videos, or just videos you recorded are just a joy to watch on this display. I love having that full 6.7-inch display instead of 6.1 inches on the 13 Pro. It really does make a big difference, and it makes me not have to consider, airplaying or casting my video to the TV because it's too small and I can't see everything I want to see. So web browsing and social media browsing are also more enjoyable because you can see more content. I also like this in the mail application. You can see more emails at one time without having to scroll as much. And the big screen is also perfect for editing photos on the Canva application, who just so happens to be today's sponsor. So you guys know that Canva is a longtime sponsor of the channel, and I swear by their service. I've been using them for several years, and I think it's the best all-in-one design platform on the market, hands down. And it seems like every time I do a new sponsored post with them, there are several new templates available that I did not see the previous time. And that is the beauty of this platform. You never have to waste time creating something from scratch. There's always something new there for you to build on, whether that's a resume, a wedding invite, a birthday card, a t-shirt design, whatever it may be. Canva has a template for you, and they make it simple to edit since everything is drag and drop. You just upload your assets or use the ones built in, and it's plug and play from there. Not to mention, all of this is completely free. However, Canva does also offer a pro version that gets you access to their really professional top tier templates and animations. It also gets you access to more stock photos, music, professional tools, and more. A lot of my recent birthday card and t-shirt designs have been created with those pro templates. And if you have a team, the pro version is an even easier decision because it allows you to collaborate with up to 4 other team members in real time. You also get access to the content planner, brand colors, and more. So if you want to test out the pro version of Canva free for 45 days, click the special link down in the description below. You can cancel at any time, but this will at least show you everything that Canva has to offer to see if you think it's worth it or if you just want to keep using it for free. So big shout out to Canva once again for sponsoring this segment of the video. Now the chip that's powering all of my social media browsing and all of my gaming and everything is the Apple A15 Bionic chip. And that is a chip that is apparently also going to be in the iPhone 14 later this year. And while the chip is crazy powerful, I never really noticed a difference from last year's A14, aside from gaming performance. And that is slightly improved with the 13 Pro series due to the additional GPU core. So it now has a 5-core GPU compared to the 4-core GPU that we saw in the 12 series. But whether you're browsing the web, watching videos, editing photos, creating TikToks, or whatever you're doing, the chances of you complaining about performance are literally slim to none. The chip works so well with the software, and in addition, we do also have 6 gigabytes of RAM. So there's really never been a time where I wish this iPhone was faster, or I wish something stayed open longer in the background. Everything stays open in the background for a really long time, especially games. That's really the thing that surprised me the most. And another area that I have not once complained about since owning this phone is the camera quality. So with a triple 12 megapixel lens setup, you have all of the tools needed to get the shot you want. I cannot tell you how many times I've used the 3x optical zoom when I wanted to get a close-up shot of an object or a person, but I just can't get close enough, or I don't want people in the shot. I used this so many times at Disney because I didn't want people in the shot, and it was such a lifesaver. The 0.5x shots you can get with the ultra wide lens are also very clutch when you're close to an object, but you want to capture everything in frame. Now, the quality and the dynamic range are not as good as they are on the main lens or the telephoto lens, but it's still super useful for a variety of situations. Now, one situation that makes the ultra wide lens especially useful is macro photography and macro video. So I've talked about this feature a ton, but it still blows me away with how close you can get to an object and how well the photo turns out regardless of the amount of light in the shot. Now, I love the macro button also on the camera's interface. It makes it really easy to disable this if you want to get like close to an object but not too close. You could turn this off so it turns off autofocus on the ultra wide lens. I love that was added later on. And then Smart HDR4 and Deep Fusion make a huge difference with their post-image processing, even over the 12 series. And it's really cool to watch this work. Like, you could take a photo, and if you click on it right away, you will see it when it's unprocessed, and then it fixes it up in like 3 or 4 seconds, and you can see just how well that Smart HDR4 and Deep Fusion works. We also have all of the great features like night mode and night mode portraits, sensor shift OIS, and photographic styles, but honestly, I hardly use any of them aside from OIS, which of course is just built in for stability in photos and especially for videos. There's no toggle for that though, it's just built in and always on. Now, I do use night mode on occasion, but I've never used night mode portraits or photographic styles, which are literally just glorified Instagram filters that are permanently put on the photo until you change the setting inside of the Photos application, which I kind of find annoying. Now, on the other hand, the new video features are ones that I do actually use, like cinematic mode, for example. You know, yes, it's more of a gimmicky feature with the fake bokeh, but I actually love it. It makes every video seem so much more cinematic and so much higher quality than it actually is, because you can only shoot videos in 1080p, but like I said, you can never tell because it looks so much higher quality due to that bokeh and the panning that it does, the auto panning that it does when somebody comes into a scene. ProRes video recording is also incredible, especially in 4K 30. The darks are so much darker and the colors just pop more than regular 4K recording. Now, the big downside is just how extremely large the files are, which is the main reason I never use this feature unless I'm filming something that will like never happen again and I plan to share online. I do like having the toggle for it in the camera UI, but you know, I hardly ever touch it. You can also shoot ProRes or cinematic video from the front-facing camera, although I don't really know when that would be necessary unless you vlog from your iPhone using the front-facing camera. I mainly use this front-facing camera for selfies, and I will say that the quality of these selfies is the best out of any smartphone I've ever tested. So I love the results from this camera, and I really think that Smart HDR4 is to thank for the boosted quality, even over the iPhone 12 series. I saw a lot of people saying that the front-facing camera is not as good as it was on the iPhone 12, or that it's the same quality as the iPhone 12, and I wholeheartedly disagree. I think that it has gotten better with the 13 series. And I do also have to say that the audio from videos is tremendous. And even when you watch your videos back later on the external speaker, you will have zero complaints. I think the iPhone 13 Pro Max gets louder than the regular Pro. Not by much, but it is something that you should take into account, you know, if you always play music loud on your speakers, if you always watch videos loud on your speakers, which you probably shouldn't do because it is bad, but the 13 Pro Max I did find to be a little bit louder than the regular 13 Pro, and of course louder than the 12 Pro Max as well. So with all of that being said, after more than 8 months of usage, I still love the iPhone 13 Pro Max just as much as I did on day one. Now, will I ever use it over the iPhone 13 Pro as my main phone? No, because I get all of the same features, just in a smaller and lighter form factor. However, with that being said, I do envy the battery life and the screen size of the Pro Max. And if you can get past the size of the body, or if you're just a bigger person with bigger hands than me, then it might just be the perfect iPhone for you. And with the iPhone 14 coming up, it might be worth it to wait and see what Apple announces, but I would not shy away from buying an iPhone 13 Pro Max today if you're looking to upgrade now, because, you know, the 14 is not going to be too much faster. The camera is not going to be too much better. You may see a redesign, but if you don't mind the notch, then it's not going to be worth upgrading to the 14 Pro or Pro Max. So I think it's still well worth that expensive price tag. Even now, you know, it might go on sale when the iPhone 14 series comes out. It probably will. But even then, you know, I think it is going to be just an even better buy at that price tag, because of course, not everybody's going to need everything the 14 Pro Max has to offer. So there you have it. That is my long-term review on the iPhone 13 Pro Max. If you have this phone, let me know your thoughts down there in the comments below and how it's held up for you over time. And of course, as always, if you guys enjoyed this video, I would appreciate if you give it a thumbs up. And of course, consider subscribing if you want to see more future iPhone reviews. But anyways, guys, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.